this is obviously for the bass era of your career, or say bass freestyle early era of your career. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Right now, I am back in 1986. I am just a little young Jewish boy who just moved down from New York City to Florida. That was a story in itself. I was a bad boy growing up. I'm little Danny B, and this is my story, the true Hollywood story.
So '86, where did you move to?
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, as you can tell from my accent. And then I kind of got shipped down here to my dad. My parents were divorced, and I moved down here to North Miami Beach.
Before you moved, were you already into hip hop, electro, any music like that?
I was huge into anything that was Tommy Boy Records. I mean, it was a huge inspiration for me. As soon as I heard "Play at Your Own Risk," Planet Rock, I was hooked. I was hooked. I knew what I wanted to do. You know.
Did you think that moving from New York, you would leave all that behind, leave the culture behind?
I had no idea what to expect because I wasn't really even involved in any of the business end. You would think that I would be, being that New York was pretty much the prominent area of the music scene at that time. Um, I was young. That's what it was. I was only 18 years old. I didn't know anything. I was wet behind the ears, green, as you would say. All I knew is I wanted to learn how to play keyboards. Um, my parents were divorced at an early age. I used to visit my dad in Florida every summer. He would spoil us. My brother wanted go-karts and motorcycles. I wanted guitars and keyboards. And he hooked it up. My father and my mother have been very supportive through my music career, investing in any way they possibly can, emotionally, financially. And I used to sit there for hours playing keyboards, just listening to Planet Rock and just mimicking the keyboard lines. Expose, just mimicking, just Lime, Babe We're Gonna Love, just trying to play anything I possibly can to develop my own style, knowing that someday I did eventually want to cut a record.
This was in '86 when you got to North Miami?
This is when I moved down here, like I said, I was 18. I started playing guitar when I was 14 and keyboards when I was 15. So this is all going on in New York. But, it's talent is one thing, knowing people is another thing. I really didn't know anybody. I was still in high school.
What was there a difference in the music you were hearing when you got here from what you left behind?
Some yes, some no. A lot of stuff was coming out of Florida. The stuff that made it to New York was pretty Tony stuff, Debbie Deb, Trenier. Not a lot of stuff was coming down here. When I came to Florida, I got my first taste of freestyle, the group Freestyle. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the bass stuff, the DXJ stuff, the Magatron, that stuff never made it to New York on a club level, which I was like, wow, listen to this stuff, listen to that stuff. Because to me, they're different styles. I mean, you have the more musical, the more singing stuff, then you have the more instrumental, more, bassy stuff, which I thought was really cool. And I knew I wanted to combine both sounds.
When was your first experience in any type of industry, no matter how small?
I used to, like I said, when I moved down here, and I used to visit my dad, like every summer. I'm sorry, before I moved down here, when I used to visit my dad every summer, I wasn't doing so good in school because I was just sucked in with all my friends, doing the music, doing the DJing thing, and I just, kind of slacked on school. And in order for me to come down to Florida, I had to go to summer school. That was the deal. North Miami Beach Summer School. And that's where I met Luis Diaz, because apparently he wasn't doing so good in school either. And me and Luis became really close. We became really tight friends. And like I said, my father used to buy us all kinds of gifts and toys because he only saw us 2 months out of the year. He bought me a TR-505 drum machine and a Korg Poly 800 keyboard. At that time, and me and Luis would just play with it for hours and hours upon end. Eventually, Luis got some backing and started World Premiere Records. And we put out our first record. It was mostly Lewis's first record. I was still a little wet behind the ears. Lewis was more on the business end of it. And it was called Vision of Desire by a band called Foreplay. It was a bunch of guys. I can't even describe it. I wish I had a picture of it. They looked like girls. It was almost like a Foxy kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And the record did good, but that was our first taste of in the business. And right then and there, I knew that I didn't want to go that route because that was a little feminine for me. I wanted to be a little bit more harder, a little bit more cutting edge. I wanted to combine my freestyle roots with my new found love of the bass roots. Okay, and Somehow we met up with Danny Canary, who we became partners with and started Tone Deaf Records. Okay, this is shortly after World Premiere Records.
Can I pause you? Sure. World Premiere Records did put out Real Raw.
Yes. Okay, Real Raw. Real Raw was a Danny Canary, Luis Diaz project. I was not involved with that. However, I was involved with the label, just working on other artists that we were working on. Nothing ever panned out from anything. We were just studio work I was doing. Danny Canary and his girlfriend just found these guys, and Lewis somehow, they combined online studios with World Premiere Records, and they put out the Real Raw project. And to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that was the last thing with World Premiere Records. You could probably answer that more than I can. See, with the Real Raw project, that was still kind of Miami ghetto bass, and I was more on the whole freestyle electronic vibe. That's what I was digging. My goal was to mesh this freestyle sound that I'm hearing and this 808 drum machine. This is what I wanted to do. Okay, I wasn't hearing that in Planet Rock. I wasn't hearing that in any of this stuff. They were all using Lindrum stuff, and I thought that the productions were kind of weak in that form. The music was banging. I mean, the lead lines. I mean, I love lead lines. Lead lines. That's my thing. I'm the king of the lead lines when I'm doing my thing. But it needed some kind of balls, and I believe that music didn't have any. So they were working on the Real Raw project. They really didn't want to get too musically with it, which I understand. You know, I'm trying to introduce a whole new thing to them, and they weren't into it. So I was working on my little side thing that I was doing.
Was that Power Patrol?
That was, yes. I was the beginnings of the Power Patrol stuff. But it wasn't even Power Patrol. There was no Demas Martinez, no Curtis Lehman, no Luis Diaz. This is just me fucking around in the studio. Can I say fucking around? Because we are.
It's going to be PG-13R.
PG-13R.